After watching the big game yesterday, two things are resoundingly clear. Offensive line and defense matters. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's Alex Clancy here. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast platform. It was a smack in the face yesterday. A big ol' smack in the face, a stinky one, reminding me of the shortcomings of the Arizona Cardinals, but only two in particular. And not like there are 1,000, but the two most important things that we've been discussing for quite some time on this show reared their ugly heads for New England yesterday. And, that was the impetus for not a great Super Bowl. So I'll discuss it in depth. There are conflicting reports about Kyler Murray staying, them trying to cut him, trying to trade him, Schefter, Pelissero, others, conflicting reports. Discuss it in the final segment. The DC search continues. The Cardinals still have their defensive coordinator. Did yesterday change people's minds on the experience versus innovation debate that we had on Friday? We'll discuss that too. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by FanDuel. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them with a bet on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. So here's the thing. The Arizona Cardinals must draft an offensive lineman at 3. And end of show. Yesterday was a rough day for Will Campbell, rookie, top 5 pick. And I know that in your Cardinals fans' braids, you're like, well, the Cardinals could do that too and then get a bust. And then that would be 2 top 5 picks in a row that people say is bust. And the Cardinals would be further away than closer, which is what they all want. Let's just ice that, okay? Let's put that on ice, shall we? The offensive line of the New England Patriots collectively gave up 6 sacks and over 10 pressures. And it was more. It was 10, 12, 13 pressures. Drake May had no chance. I mean, in a couple clean pockets he had, he was very errant with throwing the ball, but that's neither here nor there for this. Offensive line is the most important position group in football outside of quarterback. I've been saying this seems like for 5 years now. And it's a lot more Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins, an offensive lineman. If yesterday doesn't snap people's necks back, not like physically, but, like looking like, oh my gosh. Yeah, offensive line's important. Nothing will. Best offensive lineman available in free agency they can afford. Offensive lineman at 3. What Chicago did in one short offseason should be the roadmap for the Cardinals. Now, it's not to say that you have to, pay Joe Tooney a whole bunch of cheese, obviously, because he's not going anywhere. But this offseason's version of that, but I would much rather them bolster the offensive line with the majority of funds they have this offseason and draft the rest and sign vets for plug and plays for the rest of the positions of need. If you needed any more evidence regarding the importance of the offensive line, look at the last 2 Super Bowls. Patrick Mahomes had no time when they played the Eagles. And then the same thing when the Bucks beat him in the Super Bowl, no time. The offensive line was completely shattered. And the one with the Bucks was, I think they had a lot of injuries. That was more injury-based. But when you look at the Patriots yesterday, it's like they had no shot. They had no shot. And yes, Seattle's defense is good. I'll talk about that in a second. If you don't protect the quarterback, nothing else matters. Five seasons. This has been discussed. Got to protect the quarterback. Got to protect the quarterback. And I think that 3 will be an offensive lineman. But yesterday was ace. I was going to do a completely different show today. I was going to do, the year in review this past season. But after watching that, it's like, how much more glaringly obvious does it need to be that you can't have Jonah Williams as your right tackle anymore? He won't be. You probably can't have Isaiah Adams as your right guard, depending on what happens with Will Hernandez. Evan Brown, same thing. You're going to put John Gaines there? Who knows? The only two of the five that I implicitly trust on this offensive line are Paris Johnson Jr. and Yalda Furled. 40% isn't good. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, this is like, I've had an identity crisis with one of the things that I said, mid-season last season, but this solidified it. Growing up is realizing that a really good defense is sexier than a really good offense. Because it springs eternal. If you've got a really good defense that can actually force turnovers, that can actually sack the quarterback with ease against a bad offensive line, it's the whole heartbeat. It's the whole heartbeat. And we were for years in the NFL. And we're slowly starting to transition out of it, which is, I don't know, the watchability is not as good, like for points on the board, but if you've got a really good defense, you can win it all. Like, look at what happened with Denver. That a really good defense, it really sucks that there was a snowstorm in the second half of that game, but they could have won that game with Jared Stidham. Defenses and offensive line, that's it. And the rest, while important, can live off of the jet stream that a good defense and a really good offensive line lays out for you. Of course, quarterback play and all this stuff, like, this isn't an exact science, but what you saw yesterday was a quarterback who made 4 or 5 really good throws. And Kenneth Walker, ran roughshod. But the defense dictated that game yesterday. That was the defense was the MVP yesterday. And in your backyard of the NFC West, you're going to see that in some form or fashion for the next 5 years? Yikes. You better pick the hell up. 5 out of 8. 5 out of the last 8 years, an NFC West team played in the Super Bowl. That's a lot. So for the Cardinals this offseason, we'll talk about this significantly more than just a 9 or 10 minute segment here. They need to start with the basics. Build the offensive line. That's the spine of any team that has winning aspirations. Build the offensive line. Then build a pass rush. And, well, what about the running back? What about the wide receiver? You want to talk about premium positions? People say, safety's not a premium position. Off-ball backer is not a premium position. Ask Fred Warner. Ask the 49ers. Ask Budda Baker for the majority of his time here. What's premium and what isn't? That's one of the biggest fallacies in sports to me. The only true premium number one tip-top position outside of quarterback is offensive line. That's number one. Always. Cardinals got to get it right this offseason. Or we're going to be having the same conversation next offseason. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. The defensive coordinator search continues. Yesterday, yikes. For a game that the Cardinals didn't play in, there were a lot of impactful things that came out of it as pertaining to them looking themselves in the mirror and choosing which direction to go, specifically with the defensive coordinator. I'll discuss it next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by FanDuel. The winter games are officially here, and if you're anything like us, you're locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years, and that's why following the winter games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected on the action. The drama of curling matches, it's one of my favorites, that start slow and somehow get intense fast. Speed skating races decided by inches. Hockey games that feel different right from the opening faceoff. Every niche event becomes must-watch when you're fully locked into the competition. FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that subscribe button, man. You know the drill. Inching closer to 5K subscribers. This is fun. Going into season 10. Unbelievable. Everydayers Club. Link is in the description. Ad-free audio. Members-only Discord. The Discord is popping off with all of the different channels and stuff like that. There's an NFC West Discord channel. There's, the Locked On Cardinals Discord channel where I'm starting to have conversations with people. It's really fun. Join the family. The DC search continues. So Dino Vasso, the pass coordinator, among other things for the Houston Texans, has withdrawn his name. So that's one off the list. With Mike McDonald yesterday, it made me question the experience thing. For those that missed it, Friday's show, it was really fun. And then we kind of doubled down on it on a segment on the squad show Friday night as well this past week. So check those out. I chose experience over innovation. Would you take a Wink Martindale, who's an institution, who's done this for decades and decades, or a guy like Aubrey Pleasant, who assistant head coach, defensive pass coordinator for the Rams, who Mike LaFleur obviously knows well. You take a guy like that who's more innovative, younger, can adapt differently to ever-changing innovations on offense. And I went, the Cardinals have to get it. They didn't play it safe with the head coach. I mean, they couldn't. Nobody wanted the coach here. And now it's like, well, they can't mess the defense up because there's only one coordinator of the three who's going to have any sort of insight into that side of the ball. So you got to get a guy who's, more of a father figure in this, arena. A football father figure, an old dude. Bring him in, have him head coach, run the defense, and then you're off to the races. But then watching yesterday, Mike McDonald's calling the plays defensively. And my last segment notwithstanding with, the offensive line for the Patriots not playing great, that defense was demonic. The only real differentiator was the talent was incrementally grown before Mike McDonald got there, and in the last 2 years, it's been great. They nailed Nicky Manwari, David Nwosu they brought over, Leonard Williams was there. They drafted Byron Murphy. It's a lot of talent over there. So obviously it makes it easier, ? It is truly the biggest gamble on a first-time DC where the Cardinals are at right now. And I mean, listen, everything that I've heard, all the people I've talked to speak glowingly of Aubrey Pleasant. Glowingly. And I try to differentiate, pulling the curtains back, with, PTSD from the last regime with no experience. That's not exactly the same. I mean, Nick Roush was a linebacker coach. Aubrey Pleasant is well ingrained with Sean McVay. So it's not exactly the same. It's the same arena, but different sections. And you could bring in you could bring in a Wink Martindale and it could just totally fall flat. And then you've got no contingency plan because this is what the defense is. He blitzes a lot, cover zero a lot. That's what his defense is. Simplified, obviously. And if you bring a guy like Aubrey Pleasant in, it's like, well, he's going to run some variant of, the Chris Shula defense. He's going to run some variant of what he's learned along the way. And maybe it's not maybe. That's a lot more malleable to adapt if things aren't going right than an institution like Wink's defense. Which one's better? Like, the floor is going to be higher with Wink Martindale right out the gate. If you get somebody like that, I'm using him because his name has been, mumbled by Ian Rappaport and others about potentially wanted to come back into the NFL ranks and take a DC job. Watching yesterday is making me look the way towards innovative and away from the well-experienced. Yesterday was a mind screw. The big game was a mind screw. Because it could just be, well, they're more talented. They abused a lesser than offensive line. And they really exposed a New England Patriots team who didn't play anybody all year. That could just be it. They're just more talented. Or they were just significantly more well-coached. The defense was significantly above any offensive scheme that the Patriots put out there. And they took that game because of how they were coached. Even if you split it down the middle, it is a massive reminder that if you've got a pass rush and you've got a good offensive line, you're going to win a bunch of games, even if you're lacking in other respects. I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba was out for like 2 quarters, and they were still able to move the ball. Like nothing, Sam Darnold, again, had 3 or 4 or 5 really, really good throws. But, I mean, the A.J. Barner throw he was wide open. It was a great throw. He had one, crossing route to JSN. Like, he didn't have to. So the defense will handle this. It would be more fun to bring in a younger guy to be the DC. It would be more fun. It would have more pop. And I'm inching my way back towards that after watching yesterday, even though it's going to come to a thing where it's going to come to a point where it's like, it's not so much do the Cardinals deserve to go for the gold and get it. It's more what's better for the overall team. What I mean by that is what's better for Mike LaFleur, like in the office, in meetings, to learn and to grow from a guy who's been there successfully before. I mean, Nathaniel Hackett, he's been an OC for on and off for, over 10 years. But is that enough? Do you just give the keys to the defense to another first-time defensive coordinator in hoping that they found the next Mike McDonald? That's pretty scary to me. But what we witnessed yesterday is making me question that. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. There's conflicting reports about Kyler Murray. We're going to dig into this much deeper throughout the week, but we just had to discuss it as, the end of the 2025 season is official. We'll talk about it next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring, Indeed is it's your one-stop shop. It's all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire someone for the show, I go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just a resume buzzword. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. And sponsored jobs boost your post to the people who are the best match for your role. And that makes a real difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored job. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give you the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. YouTube channel, subscribe, Big Dumb Face, notifications, analysis. Conflicting reports about Kyler Murray. One say they want to be traded. That was a poorly constructed sentence. Some reports are saying they're looking to trade him. Some reports are saying they'll most likely cut him. And some reports are saying there's a chance that he could be back in 2026. If this isn't the Arizona Cardinals, I don't know what is. Let's take a beat here. Just like with Jonathan Gannon, it was time. It's different because Kyler Murray was Rookie of the Year, was Pro Bowler, Heisman winner, number 1 overall pick. We've been doing this 7 years. 7 years. The thing that I struggle with is when you look at the list of free agent quarterbacks, and Kyler Murray is going to be one on all of them. Or no, not free agent. Either free agent or trade targets, whatever it may be. Quarterbacks that can be had this offseason. It's so glaring that he's the best one on there. I mean, Daniel Jones is there too. He's number 2 on these lists. He tore his Achilles late in last season, so he's going to be out for an extended period of time. But that's the mind screw of it. It's like, obviously, he's the most talented quarterback that's available this offseason, or most likely available. So does that make you think, well, this is truly, it went from, no, he's like last year going into 2024 and then going into this year, it's like, there's so many worse quarterbacks in the league than Kyler Murray. That's not the best ground to stand on when talking about the leader of your team and talking about the quarterback that's been here for 7 years. And, is he going to be the guy for the next handful of years here? That's not the best argument. It's kind of like a backhanded compliment. But that's kind of what we've been talking about. That's how it's kind of, it's like, it could be so much worse. And I stand by that. When Kyler Murray is great, very few quarterbacks are as great as him. When Kyler Murray is bad, very few quarterbacks are worse than him. It's the most polarizing thing I've ever experienced in my 15 plus years in this space. It doesn't make rational sense that both sides of the spectrum are so vastly spaced out. They're so wildly apart. But then you look at the list and it's like, oh yeah, obviously he's the best quarterback on that list. So, with that said, the worst option is to cut him, in my opinion. I don't care about the money. But then You can make the argument is the worst option is bringing him back. Those two are tied for last. Trading him is the best option. And when quarterback needy teams get hungry, and there's one, I don't know, hungry is not the right word. When they get, when they get restless, and there's really one guy who you can trade for and plug in and the offense will be better, that drives up the price. Drives up the price. The Cardinals benefit. Cutting him is the most business savvy one. Cutting him is the most business savvy option. But, when it comes to Kyler and it comes to his history here, I just think it's time. So bringing him back, I can't see a world, even though they brought in Mike LaFleur, okay, can he and Nathaniel Hackett resurrect Kyler Murray's career? Does Kyler Murray want to be here? He said nothing about the Mike LaFleur hire. Nothing. When people, what's the line? When people tell you who they are, believe them. I'm not saying that that's bad from Kyler Murray at all. Like, I'm not saying, oh, what a terrible leader. What a terrible leader. No, that's not what I'm saying. When people act specific ways, believe them. He's gone. Not a peep. And he doesn't have to, but new head coach. I'm not saying he had to be there at the introductory press conference. I mean, even Michael LaFleur said, which was obviously great. He goes, I've been in a lot of these in different forms of fashion. That was the most players that have been there. So take that with a little positive grain of salt moving forward, or at least for a kickoff for his new gig. But I think ranking them, and again, we're going to go into much more depth with this, but trading him is 1. Cutting him is 2. And bringing him back is 3. Even though he's a more talented quarterback than Jacoby Brissett, by and large. When it comes to history, and it comes to results, and it comes to things that are unquantifiable by the human brain, like Kyler Murray's skill set, peak and valley, rationality doesn't always win. Because rationally speaking, the Cardinals should have won a whole bunch of games this year. They should have made the playoffs 2 years ago with Kyler Murray. And they didn't. And in years 6 and 7 that those two were respectively, that's it. That's it. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Yeah, man, that's it. Without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.